Apple, Google, Microsoft would be like, oh, we're running our own business blockchain now.
And I'm like, yeah, I suspect somebody could trade their stock based on that.
You could technically do automation on steroids by using public blockchains. Yeah, and the added transparency in that is also if you build a dashboard on top of that data, as long as you trust the dashboard to actually pull from a good data source, you can have like three different dashboards where one is from the government officially, but then you have the people who are like, oh, I don't trust the government. Well, just look at the non-government one that you also developed that shows the same number, maybe like rounded up or down because you want to screw the government and be like a little off on your number, but it's the same and it's real time because everything that happens there is there. Like I remember Dan Romero from like the Farcaster Bobcast team on his podcast being like, I wonder why nobody has built a dashboard showing Coinbase volume. And there is a dashboard out with Coinbase volume, so you can infer from people going into Coinbase and out of Coinbase how much trading volume there is, figure out the historical multiplier to the trading that is just done on Coinbase internally, where they don't have to actually interface with the chain, just their own internal accounting. And then you can figure out how many fees they will earn. So you know their quarterly earnings before they even do.
Correct. I have heard that from people saying that, like, hey, you can basically know what the Coinbase earnings might be within a tolerance of error, down to the minute. And I'm like, yeah, I suspect somebody could trade their stock based on that. So
Yep.
there's a lot of things that could be done with information if it's transposed or made transparent and available to people. And it's funny enough, it basically is potentially able to answer the very first question that we got of why am I
Yeah.
paying my taxes or where is it going? And it's, hey, this is the exact use case that we can use with it.
Do you think that there's anything else out of the financial space? Where do you think that is really, really interesting?
Storing records and data. Like if somebody's birth certificate is stored on the blockchain, if there's a hurricane or a fire, it's not a risk or an issue. Like you don't need to have a safe or vault of your own. It's always available and accessible on the blockchain. And the same thing can be done with like other government interactions or things, services that you're getting, where it's like, hey, my passport's here. I can just walk right through um, the border and it instantly records that I'm able to come in with my visa and whatever. And I
Yeah.
don't need to spend 3 hours in line for somebody to review my passport and stamp it.
Because I just have, say, my digital whatever with me, um, that we somehow tied and made it biometric, face scanning, whatever you want to do. I will not comment on the technical implementation because that also has political views attached to it. Some people like the face scanning, some people don't, and whatever. Also, technically, it's what do you do? How is there? If you die, nobody can use your eye anymore. So how does inheritance work? There are many different technical questions going to that, but I think that is really interesting because you could technically do automation on steroids by using public blockchains. If you then go into private permissioned blockchains, where the private and permission basically means there's a predetermined set and only that set of companies, people, entities, whatever, are allowed to run computers on that network or even use it, then it might not be public. It is public, so that's really interesting. What do you think about those trade-offs?
This is where the technical side of things, just like people who work on that technical side of things, just they know a million times better than I do, and it's at this point in time a little over my head.
So you think, well, just in general, if you think, okay, well, if we have a blockchain and anyone can join it, can run security on it, a computer that is part of it, or there's just a consortium of, say, like Apple, Google, Microsoft would be like, oh, we're running our own business blockchain now because we're at Google to it. We are the big like 3 or 4, Facebook, Meta,
Hmm.
and all of IT, or like 80% of it, is running through us anyways. So we'll have a network where only we can join, but as customers of us four, you now get the benefits that everyone discusses with blockchain. So like that's kind of where I'm going.
There, it becomes, I think, partially a question of like, what's the pros and cons of it being fully public or private or a mixture of the two. I think this leads to partially the question of that a lot of people are having now with like AI and making sure that there's guide rails around AI for public use or appropriate use of AI so that it's not creating too much inappropriate information or wrong information and fakes and whatnot. So like a lot of we're so early on in crypto blockchains as well as AI and all of this,
Yeah.
where the technology is running so far ahead of the conversations. And that's just basically, I think, where we're at.